What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Club and Country. This is episode number 39, and we start today's episode off with Peru coming to us and saying, would you manage our nation? And of course we say no, and then JJ comes to us and says, would you play me in the next game? And I say no. So saying no to everything right now, but of course in today's episode, as you can see, there will be a decision to be made on the France job, and I want to say thank you very much for everyone for voting in the poll I ran 2 episodes ago. I really do appreciate it. Now naturally, of course, when I run straw polls, the guys that vote for the other thing to happen that doesn't happen will naturally be quite disappointed, and for that I do apologise. But either way, thank you to everyone for voting, really do appreciate it, and again we'll talk about it in more detail when it comes round in today's episode. But still taking on Stade Reims here for the first game of today's episode, the first of 3 games in today's episode I do believe, taking on Stade Reims back in the league. Of course our last game came in the cup, it was in the Coupe de Ligue. We took on St Etienne and we beat them by a goal to nil. Bongongui got his first of the season in that one. But our last league game of course was against Toulouse, and I was away from home, and we did lose. We lost it by 2 goals to 1. So coming to this game, our first league game since that defeat, we were desperate to bounce back and get back to winning ways in this game in the league. We had 6 shots at the break, but it was still 0-0, and unfortunately at full time it was also still 0-0 because the game did finish goalless. So really frustrated about this game. So 2 games in a row in the league without a win, pretty disappointing, and just could not break down a stubborn Stade Reims defense. As you could see, they only recorded 1 shot in the entire game. We had 7, only 1 shot in the second half. Pretty frustrating. We defended quite well, I'm not going to lie, but to be honest, Stade Reims played defensive for the entire game, and I just could not break them down. I was very, very frustrated, and sadly for us, it was a goalless draw. So good to get back-to-back clean sheets in all competitions for the first time in a while, but still pretty annoying we didn't win that game. And this season, I discussed it in the last episode, this season we are not playing as well as we did last season, and that is evident right now. We're nowhere near as good as we were last season. Last season at this stage, we were top of the table, doing quite well. It was around this time last season when I was starting to think to myself, maybe, possibly, we could go on ahead and win the title come the end of the season, even though it was a dream start, and of course it did sort of fall apart a little bit in the second half. But this season, it's been I wouldn't say a really poor beginning to the first half of the season, absolutely not. It's only our 3rd season in total here with Paris FC, but it's frustrating we haven't followed on last season with another good one here. But still taking us Zenit St Petersburg here for the second of 3 games in today's episode back in the Champions League. Now of course in the Champions League, the last game in the group stage was against Celtic, and we beat them at home. Now taking on the Russian side Zenit, and a win in this game would guarantee us qualification to the knockout stages with 2 games to spare. We did the post twice in this game, but then in the 68th minute, JJ, who wanted to start in the game against Stade Reims, I rested him for that one. I decided to play him in this one instead, and what a great decision it was as well. Maybe he would have scored in the last game had I played him. He does play in this one though. The cross comes in from this corner, he wins the header and gets his first goal of the season, and I do believe possibly might be his first goal for the club. I don't recall JJ ever scoring before for Paris FC. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I can't remember it though. But either way, he does score here, and this goal does separate the 2 sides as well as we win the game by a goal to 0. So 3 consecutive games with clean sheets. We do return to winning ways as well in this game too. Really pleased with that. And of course now we are guaranteed to be going through to the knockout stages of the Champions League with 2 games to spare. So really pleased with that. And it's funny, but in the Champions League, I mean it really is bizarre, but in the Champions League I was thinking we've got Chelsea, Zenit and Celtic, and I said we could definitely qualify for this group, no doubt about it. I thought we could do it, but to have already qualified with 2 games to spare, I was not seeing that happen. And in the league, I was thinking, we'd probably have a better season than last year, and once again be top around this stage as we're now into December here in Club and Country World in the 3rd season. I thought we'd still be top around this time this season like we were last season, but instead in the league we're struggling a little bit. But in the Champions League in our first ever European season, we're doing fine. So it's the complete opposite of what I was expecting. I was thinking to myself, in the Champions League we might be 3rd, we might be 4th. I don't know. It's our first European season, it could be quite difficult for us, and we're now 1st place, so we've already guaranteed qualification with 2 games to go. If we get a draw against Chelsea in the next game, we'll also guarantee top spot with a game to spare, which will be crazy. But in the league, again, we're not playing as well as I was hoping, so it's been a bit bizarre how it's been flipped. I was thinking we'd struggle in the Champions League, but do fine in the league. Instead, we're doing fine in the Champions League, not as well in the league. But here is a squad report those who enter December. You can see how the players currently getting on, as you can see in the league as well. 12 games in, We are in 4th place right now, so outside the final Champions League place, currently being occupied by Stade Rennais by a single point. We are only 4 points off Marseille and PSG though, who are 1st and 2nd. I should say that, it's not like we're in a crisis right now. We're not in like 11th place or whatever. But either way, I guess I was just hoping for better things really. But of course, there are still 26 games to go and a lot of football still left to play, and anything could happen in the second half of the season. But still, following out, we go to the straw poll results here, and over 4,000 of you guys got involved in the voting 2 episodes ago, and I want to say a massive thank you for that. I really do appreciate it. Now, I threw the question out to you guys. I said, should I take the France job from the catalogue? And 88% of you, over 3,600 of you, said yes, take the job, and only 12% said don't take the job. So for those of you out there, over 400 of you that said please don't take the job, I do apologise for that, I really do. But of course, we have to go with the majority, and the vast majority of you guys, not just the majority, but the vast majority of you guys, 88% of you said yes, take the offer from the catalogue. So that's exactly what we have done. We've forced France into giving us the job, and we are now France manager. And I will say to those of you that didn't want it to happen, again, I do apologise, I really do. The way I run my series is for your enjoyment and for your entertainment, and that's why, of course, I try and tailor the series around what you guys want. But with this sort of thing, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to take it myself or not, but I thought the fairest way of doing it is letting you guys decide, and you can't please everyone. I try my hardest to please everyone on my channel. It's obviously not possible, but you can't please everyone. But I do understand if you didn't want me to take it for whatever reason, that it'll be a bit annoying knowing I have taken it. But I wanted to please as many people as possible, and that's why I let you guys decide. And you can't say no to 88% of the people. So thank you for voting regardless, though. I really do appreciate it. We have taken a France job, and as you can see, this is the squad that France initially start with, and I've made some changes myself for the upcoming international friendlies, and you'll see how I'll probably line the France side up for the time being. And I think it's going to make the series a bit more interesting as well, because with Club and Country last year, a lot of people did like it at the start, but then they sort of lost a lot of interest because we weren't managing Spain, despite Racing Santander becoming better and players eventually getting called up. Carlos Blanco was the first ever player that got called up, and a lot of people lost interest because this series is called Club and Country. The whole part of this series, the whole point of this series, I should say, is to manage both the club and the country, and they're both as important as one another. So when you're not even managing one of those teams, when you're not managing a nation, it sort of defeats the whole point of the series, really. So I totally understand why a lot of people lost interest last year quite quickly, because there was no country aspect. But now there is the France aspect in this series. Hopefully the series will be a bit more interesting, and you guys will prefer it even more. But we'll have to wait and see what we do with France, though. Of course, there is the World Cup to come the end of the season as well. France did qualify for it in 2nd place, only just though, ahead of Greece on goal difference. But France are going into the World Cup come the end of the season in Russia 2018, so that'll be our first national tournament with the French, and we'll be picking our side and hopefully maybe calling up some Paris FC players and seeing how they do. So we're taking on St Etienne here for the 3rd and final game of today's episode on the back of that win against Zenit St Petersburg. So 3 games undefeated now, and of course that run started the 3-game undefeated streak with a win over St Etienne in the Coupe de Ligue. So now taking on St Etienne once again, this time in the league. It was a pretty frustrating beginning to the game, I must say. We had some chances in the first half, just couldn't convert though. But 9 minutes after the restart, we would open the scoring as St Maximini gets his former club, goes down the left-hand side. He's been very disappointing since we signed him to Paris FC, not going to lie. But he sprints down left-hand side, beats his man for pace, drills in a cross, and at the far post, Thierry Ambrose tucks it in and puts the ball into the back of the net for only his 6th goal in the league so far. So not doing as well as the previous 2 seasons, but does get his 6th goal there. Open the scoring and makes it St Etienne 0, Paris FC 1. So we take the lead in this game. And in the 70th minute here, a good chance to make it 2-0. Lovely back heel by Lamar towards Yannick Giron. The little man goes for goal, but the goalkeeper makes the save and turns it behind. And it was how the game would finish as well. Final score, St Etienne 0, Paris FC 1. We pull it out of the bag once again, get ourselves another 3 points. Really pleased with back-to-back wins for the first time in quite a few games as well in all competitions. Really pleased with that. And also now 4 clean sheets in a row. Really nice to see, because obviously I did mention in the last episode, I think the episode before that as well, we were struggling a bit defensively. Now we're starting to look a bit more solid and composed at the back. That's really good to see, especially after spending the big bucks on the new fullbacks as well. But either way, as you can see, the final thing you'll see in today's episode are 2 international friendlies with France. Now, as you can see, this is the squad that I set France up with, and this is probably what I'll be going with for quite a while with France, unless any players make massive changes to their overall ratings. There's some really good players in there, 2 Paris FC players as well, called Chia and Barmy, of course, but both of those players are in the reserves right now. Now, I'm not going to show complete club bias with France. I'm not going to, call up every single Paris FC player under the sun, but I think if some players do deserve it based on current form or whatever, even if their ratings aren't the best, I will call them up, because on the game, the country, they never really take into consideration the form of the players. It's pretty much always done on highest rating comes first. But for me, as France manager, I want to do it differently. I want to do it more realistically and start calling up players if they're in good form. So, for example, if Ambrose goes into really good form, even though he'll be several ratings below players like Griezmann, Lacazette and Benzema, I'll still probably call him up because he deserves it, but I won't call up every single player, as that would be a bit ridiculous. But either way, guys, that is going to end the episode, so thank you very much for watching today's episode of Club and Country. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do consider leaving a like, ratings. That is, of course, much appreciated, and it really does help my channel out. Of course, you don't have to leave a like, though, if you don't want to, and I'll see you for the next episode of Club and Country very soon.